This is question number 9 of homework 4, problem 12, 16. OCH Incorporation is considering a project that will result in initial after-tax cash flows, cash savings of $1.84 million at the end of the first year, and these savings will grow at a rate of 1% per year indefinitely. So based on this information, we can tell the cash flows are what we call the growing perpetuity. And the formula for growing perpetuity, the present value formula for growing perpetuity is the basically what the dividend growth model is based on. That's the present value equals cash flow at year 1 divided by the discount rate minus the growth rate of the cash flow. So cash flows at year 1 is $1.84 million, and the growth rate is 1%. So that's basically the formula for the present value of a growing perpetuity. So let's continue to read the setup. The firm has a target debt-equity ratio of 0.75. So that means, let me use E over E. That's the debt over equity ratio. Target debt equity ratio, that's 0.75. So this information can tell us how to calculate the debt ratio or debt value ratio. So once we know the debt equity ratio, the debt value ratio is basically the D over D plus E, right? That's basically equals 0.75 divided by 0.75 plus 1. So I have to add this equals. So this is basically the debt value ratio. So let me make this a little bit bigger. It's better. So how do I know that? Basically, you can just assume that D equals 0.75 and E, hence E must equal to 1. So that's what I have here. So D is 0.75 over 0.75 plus 1. So that's D over D plus E. And obviously, this is an arbitrary number, but it turns out for any value, specific value of D, you can assume D equals 100, hence E, based on D over E equals 0.75, you can figure out E. So, but ultimately that doesn't affect the D over D plus E. So this number won't change for any arbitrary value of D. So that's why I can safely assume that D simply equals 0.75 and hence E is 1, hence D over D plus E is this one. Okay, so now let's go back to the setup. And a cost of equity of 12.4% and an after-tax cost of debt of 5.2%. So, so RE, that's basically R over E. That's 12.4%, and 1 minus TC times over C or D tax, the cost of debt. So it's a after-tax cost of debt. That's why I have to make this one minus the tax rate times RD, the pre-tax cost of debt. That equals 5.2%. Okay, so the cost-saving proposal is somewhat riskier than the usual projects the firm undertakes. So far, this is the basically this is the usual cost of capital, cost of equity, cost of debt for the general project, but this proposal is riskier, hence the cost of capital for the project need to be higher. So the management uses the subjective approach and applies an adjustment factor of 3% to the cost of capital for such risky projects. So once we can figure out the cost of capital for the general business, then we can simply add 3% to that value to figure out the cost of capital for this specific riskier proposal. So that's what this basically this information tells us. And what is the maximum initial cost the company would be willing to pay for the project? So what's this question asking? So the maximum initial cost the company would be willing to pay. So now the benefit is by taking on this project, the firm will save cost. We have a savings of $1.84 million for the first year and grows at 1% per year. So that's basically the benefit of taking on this project, but any benefit has to incur the initial cost. So basically the question is asking what is the maximum cost that will wash away that benefit. So the benefit, we can calculate the present value of the benefit, right? Present value of the benefit. That's basically based on this growing perpetuity formula, right? Present value of a growing perpetuity. That's the cash flows for first year divided by the discount rate minus the growth rate. So that's the benefit. And then the maximum cost is this number. So we subtract the cost from the benefit, and that's basically our NPV, right? That's the equals minus cost. And then the maximum initial cost. If NPV turns out to be negative, then it's not worthwhile to take on this project. Hence, the maximum cost must make the NPV to be 0, right? If it's positive, that means we can further increase the cost until NPV becomes 0. So the maximum cost will be the value which makes the NPV to be 0. Hence, the maximum cost will be present value of the benefit. So that's basically, this is 0. That's basically what we are trying to do. We're trying to figure out the present value of the benefit. Okay, and the present value is based on that present value of a growing perpetuity formula. The cash flow for the first year divided by the discount rate minus the growth rate. So cash flows is given, growth rate is given, so and this R is what we are trying to figure out. Once we can figure out this R, we can calculate present value. And once we can calculate the present value, then we know the maximum cost. So ultimately, this question boils down to getting this R. This is the weighted average cost of capital. So the weighted average cost of capital is the, let me write down here. It's basically the RE, right? RE, the cost of equity, times equity value ratio. So this is the debt value ratio. So equity value ratio must be 1 minus that. And plus after tax cost of debt times debt value ratio. So this is basically the cost of capital for this general business. And then, so this is the WACC for the general business. So now WACC for the project is simply this WACC for the general business plus a risk premium adjustment, which is 3%, right? 3%. Now it's going back 3%. So now we have figured out the cost of capital for this project, and now we can calculate the present value of the benefit. So that's basically the cash flow for the first year divided by now this WACC for the project minus G, 1%. So this gives me 1 point, going back to the first year's cash flow, 1.84. So this is in $1 million. Hence, we have to multiply this by 1 million divided by this WACC for the project minus 1%. Okay. So this is basically the final answer. And we have to follow the rounding requirement. Do not round intermediate calculations. Using Excel can help us to meet this requirement very easily. Because so far I haven't rounded any intermediate calculations. You can see that. And enter your answer in dollars, not millions of dollars. So that's what I did. This is in dollar, not in millions of dollars. Round your answer to 2 decimal places. So, and also that's what I did. So basically I just need to copy this number and paste it into my answer sheet. And now check my work. Okay, so you can see that I got the right answer.